I have sat through this debate from yesterday, and it is very clear that all members are contributing on a shared vision. And the vision I see is that all members want a system at the National Treasury that will make devolution a success. And if that is the case, the ball is still in our court, honorable members, in the sense that we must think long and hard on how to ensure that whatever instrument we create whatever instrument we create ends up making devolution effective and efficient. To my mind, we need to now move a bill in this House. And the bill should be a bill to make the National Treasury an independent office. Independent so that, Madam Speaker, it is not open to direction from the office of the President or any other office. Mr. Speaker, the biggest weakness we have today is that the Minister for National Treasury considers himself as part of the national government and not part of the county government. My mind is telling me, Madam Speaker, that if we make this minister independent and provide clearly in law that he will be sitting in the Council of Governors, 1. 2, he will be sitting in Cabinet. 3, he will sit on the National Security Council, and that he will not be directed by the office of the President or any other minister. It will be a big step. And until we do this, counties will never be efficient. And then once we do that, we can then say, instead of this ritual, Senator Sifuna, of discussing here how the minister should be dispersing money, which is supposed to be automatic, we provide in the law that the money due to counties, once decided, and it has become a law through the DORA bill or the DORA Act, then it is available to county governments in 12 equal installments payable on the 15th day of the month. A rich country like Kenya cannot be able to raise 15% of its budget which is due to the county governments every month. It collects and collects even more. Madam Speaker, I am persuaded that this will be a very difficult thing to see through, especially with the limited cooperation that we have from the National Assembly, but that is the future of devolution. Madam Speaker, I therefore, as I hope to remain the member of the Finance Committee, hope that next year we will invite the Minister of the National Treasury to discourage him from asking us through this kind of industry where we are doing now, to be giving him discretion. We don't want him to have any discretion. Even if you don't like your governor, you like the people from your county. So it is to your own benefit as a senator that your governor succeeds, because in the process, our people benefit. Having made those passing remarks, I want to urge colleagues, you go and read around the Chancellor of the Exchequer as practiced in the United Kingdom. This is a special minister. In fact, they refer to them as His Majesty's treasury minister to the crown. He is the fourth highest ranking member in government because he controls the Commonwealth of the United Kingdom. We can borrow from this so that in Kenya, because we also have our own Commonwealth, we have this special office that will be efficient and effective so that devolution, which is the future of this country, can succeed. Having said that much, I respond and request that, Madam Speaker, due to obvious reasons, that the putting of the question under Standing Order number 66.3 be delayed to a later day. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The putting of the question is so deferred. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, report of the Select Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Affordable Housing Regulations, legal notice number 114 of 2025.
Chairperson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move that the Senate adopt the report of the Select Committee on delegated legislation with its consideration of the Affordable Housing Regulation legal notice number 114 of 2025, read on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 24th of September 2025, and that pursuant to Section 59.4 of the Affordable Housing Act 2024, the Senate resolves to approve the Affordable Housing Regulation, legal notice number 114 of 2025. Madam Speaker, the regulations are aimed at making sure that the Affordable Housing Act is operational according to Act number 2 of 2024 and providing the clarity on its implementation by providing the procedure and the criteria for allocation of affordable housing units, prescribing the requisite deposit for an affordable housing unit, 5% of the value of the unit, and providing for deposit assistance. They also outline the procedure to be followed in the event of default in repaying an allocated housing unit, the criteria for changing a unit, and the provision of low-interest loans for acquisition of units involved under this initiative, as well as the development of rural affordable housing units. Madam Speaker, the regulations are crucial to Kenyans in a number of ways, which I want to highlight. Madam Speaker, the regulations play a central role in the realization of socio-economic rights as enshrined in the Article 43(1) of B of the Constitution, which guarantees every person the right to accessible and adequate housing. The regulations are instrumental in achieving objectives under key national frameworks, including the Big Four Agenda, Vision 2030, and the Bottom-Up Economic Transformation Agenda, BETTER, by enabling the development of affordable housing units to cover the 2,000 housing units in deficits. Madam Speaker, these regulations of affordable housing initiative generates extensive employment opportunities across the housing value chain, from construction to manufacturing, logistics, and financial services. It also stimulates demand for local building materials and services, thereby contributing to national economic growth and reducing poverty. Madam Speaker, the regulations as well of affordable housing, we have the classification of potential beneficiaries into distinct income bands, that is the social housing, affordable housing, and affordable middle class housing insurance targeted interventions, allowing for equitable allocation of housing units based on needs and income capacity. So, Madam Speaker, that's not enough. There is also the provision of subsidized and low interest mortgages financing. It's a transformative element of the housing regulations. By lowering the cost of borrowing, the regulations make it possible for most Kenyans to access long-term home financing, enhance affordability, and significantly reduce the financial burden of home ownership. Madam Speaker, although the Cabinet Secretary erroneously submitted that draft regulations to the Senate instead of the published regulations and failed to adhere to Section 59(3) of the Affordable Housing Act, number 2 of 2024, which requires the Cabinet Secretary to table the regulations before Parliament within 30 days of commencement of the Act, that is by 21st of April 2024, the Act commenced on 22nd March 2024. Majority of the committee was of view that the Cabinet Secretary has given sufficient responses to these issues, and that the regulations had fulfilled the substantial requirement of the Statutory Instruments Act and the Affordable Housing Act, and as such, substantive justice must not be overridden by technicalities. And the regulations fulfill the requirement of the Statutory Instruments Act Cap 2A as follows. Pursuant to Section 11(1), the regulations were submitted to the Clerk of the Senate within 7 days of publication. Pursuant to Section 5A, the regulations were submitted to the Senate along with a copy of the explanatory memorandum, setting out, among others, proof of public participation. There was also evidence of the call for public participation in MyGov, as well as newspaper of national circulation was submitted, and in accordance with Section 6, a regulatory impact assessment was submitted as the regulations imposed on the community. Madam Speaker, arising from this observation on these regulations, the committee recommends that the House approves the Affordable Housing Regulations 2025, legal notice number 114 of 2025, as to Section 59(4) of the Affordable Housing Act, number 2 of 2025, and Section 11(4) of the Statutory Instruments Act, Cap 224. Madam Speaker, allow me to thank the members of the committee for their diligence and insightful during the consideration of these regulations. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I wish to thank the Office of the Speaker and the Clerk of the Senate for the support accorded to the committee during consideration of these regulations. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Section 59(4) of the Affordable Housing Act, number 2 of 2024, it is now my present duty to present the report of the Committee on Delegated Legislation on the consideration of the Affordable Housing Regulation 2025, legal notice number 114 of 2025. And I beg my very good Senator Romenen to second.
Senator Romenen.
Madam Speaker, in due respect, I support the motion by Senator Moa Fire. Madam Speaker.
Order, Senator. Who is Senator Moa Fire? You want to...
Senator Kataya. I do call him Moa Fire.
More fire.
More fire. More fire.
Proceed, Senator, for Turkana.
Yes. Madam Speaker, the resolutions passed by my respective senator, the report creates job employment in the nation, Madam Speaker, and then, Madam Speaker, it also creates a social development in our nation. I bring a case study. We have been just hearing, Madam Speaker, of housing, but recently we met it in reality in Turkana County, where more than 2,000 houses has been planned to be built, especially in new institutions that are created in that area. Imagine, Madam Speaker, we were very happy as leaders of the county to receive such houses in area like Kibich, which is the farthest corner of this continent or this nation, where when we some 2 years ago, Madam Speaker, even police officers, police personnel could not even afford a room. They were just staying in primary schools that are not even standardized. So, Madam Speaker, the issue of housing makes sure those who are incapable of getting housing are now happier than before. So, Madam Speaker, it is a reality to respect the Constitution, that Article 43, of saying that every Kenyans have a right of housing, access housing. It is real in this motion, Madam Speaker. And I believe if well implemented without any reservation, Madam Speaker, the nation, our citizens will enjoy the housing implementation. So thank you, Madam Speaker. I second.
Senator Khalwade. No. Honourable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Select Committee on Delegated Legislation on its consideration of the Affordable Housing Regulations, legal notice number 114 of 2025, laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 24th September 2025, and that pursuant to Section 59(4) of the Affordable Housing Act 2024, the Senate resolves to approve the Affordable Housing Regulations, legal notice number 114 of 2025. Senator Khalwade.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a rare opportunity that Parliament will be speaking on the issue of housing. And it's unfortunate that colleagues are too committed in their offices at the moment. We want to talk about housing because on social media, in the print media, main and alternative, in social joints, people are talking about housing. Why? Because people are contributing towards financing this project. How I wish more of us would be here to participate. And I hope that this discussion goes beyond today so that colleagues can share with the rest of us what their thoughts are. And I want to start, Madam Speaker, by confirming that I support the report. And I want to recall that under the new Constitution, 2013 to 2017, when Mwai Kibaki was president, what defined his presidency, Madam Speaker, sorry, I'm getting wrong, from the time of the old dictatorship, when Mwai Kibaki took over in 2002, what defined President Mwai Kibaki's presidency were just two things. He succeeded, Madam Speaker, in rolling out free primary education. It was a huge success. It was a masterpiece. And we shall never forget Kibaki for that gift to the generation of young Kenyans who benefited. Two, President Mwai Kibaki was able to practice as much as possible zero tolerance to corruption, enough for the country to be proud of, to be a working nation, and it resulted into our economy achieving an unprecedented growth of 7.2%. Madam Speaker, we shall remember Kibaki. And thanks for this, we were able actually to build the Thika superhighway. Out moved Kibaki, in came Uhuru, and Uhuru, despite the confusion that was around the Jubilee government and all the noise, Uhuru built the standard gauge rail line and went on and built the express highway here in Nairobi, Madam Speaker, plus the other roads that he touched here and there. in comes President Ruto. To me, it is starting to look like what will define President Ruto will be the success of the housing project. And therefore, Parliament, if we want successive governments to succeed, we should help. We smoothen, we file the rough edges of this housing project so that it succeeds. Madam Speaker, I am not persuaded that absorption of the funds that are recovered from Kenyans and meant to construct housing is poor to the extent that those funds, we hear, without serious confirmation, that they are now being invested in treasury bonds. It means we are overtaxing Kenyans. We should just have taxed them enough for us to be able to absorb. It is an opportunity that we should now speak to so that we move from the 1.5 to something lower, so that the money which is taxed from Kenyans, it leaves them comfortable and it ends up being absorbed 100%. Who knows, honorable colleagues, whoever will come after President Ruto might find a slush fund in the monies that will have been saved because of failure to absorb, and then that money is just taken to another project altogether or abused by a president who, after succeeding President Ruto, be it in 2027 or 2032, who will not be sharing his vision on housing. It is something that must concern us. Madam Speaker, it's important that maybe through an amendment of the Act or through these regulations, we should now be clearer on who benefits from these houses. I'm starting to see a red light. You saw when our athletes did very well at, was it called Chan? The championship where we did very well. You saw all of a sudden, they received a gift of houses. Is this the way we want to do it? That money contributed by Kenyans and then is used to give out houses as gifts? If that is the case, how will the people of the ones who vote for you in Mathare, yes, how are they assured that they will deserve a gift? It should not be a question of gifts. It should be a question of deserving. What's more, I saw, dear colleagues, 10,000 teachers at State House, and the issue of housing was on the table. Is that the way we want to do it? Let's think about it. We help the government, we help the president by giving him enabling legislation that will save him from the urge to have that discretion. Madam Speaker, with due respect, we want houses to be fast-tracked. But we want to do it better. Where you are born, not where you come from. You know that in Bushiangala village, a primary school teacher, if you give him one of the flats in Kakamega, that primary school teacher will say, thank you very much, but he will never stay in that house. Instead, he's going to rent it out. Which is a good thing. But was that the objective of affordable housing? Was the objective of affordable housing to be given to successful football players? Was it? Can you convince Kenyans at Nyayo Stadium, at Kasarani, that continue contributing part of your salary so that at some time, when a Kenya does something extraordinary, he's gifted? That's not how governments are run. No. And, Madam Speaker, we have an adult responsibility in this country to say these things. Because if we don't get it right, the country becomes unstable. We all remember when we were insensitive to the voices of the holoi polloi on the infamous finance bill of 2024. We almost got killed here on the 25th of June. So let us be sensitive to what the public is saying. I never agree to manyora, and I find it very difficult to agree with him because of his tribalistic mindedness. But the one thing that I think Manyora gets right is that listen to the people. We must listen to the people. I saw, Madam Speaker, a survey which I have reason to believe that it is credible. And Kenyans were being asked, do you impress or don't you impress broad-based government? A whooping 70, what? Somebody remember? A whooping 78 said no. 68% said no. That is too high in any scientific research. So if Kenyans are saying they don't want broad-based government, they are saying, let us respect to the constitution, the people in the opposition, Idiot Sifuna, Beatrice, you leave our committees to chair our committees, you go back and play your role as elected leaders on the opposition. That is what that Tifa poll was saying. Madam Speaker.
What's your point about the Senator?
Don't quarrel me.
Senator Cherargei, please. Yeah. Senator Sifuna, what's your point about it?
Honorable Speaker, with tremendous respect to the Senator from Kakamega, pursuant to Standing Order 105 on statement of fact, I have been more than clear that I do not recognize anything called broad-based government. Yes. I am not part of it. Why does he keep dragging me and my good name into these conversations all the time, and yet it is not factual that I have abandoned my role as an opposition legislator? Can he withdraw that statement and that reference to me? And Honorable Speaker, kindly, for the sake of order in the House, guide Honorable Khalwale that it is possible to just make submissions without every single time and every single opportunity you get throwing jibes at your colleagues.
Senator Khalwale, that is self-explanatory. Please withdraw.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, in fact, the Senator of Nairobi is more than 100% right. And I wouldn't want to drag your name in mud, especially given the fact that I'm your elder from the community, and I have a responsibility to hold your hand the way Michael Kijana Wamalu held my hand when I came to this parliament. By referring to you, I did it wrongly. I was thinking about the Orange Democratic Movement, and because you're the Secretary General. Correct. I know you are very clear, you have nothing with broad-based government. In fact, it reminded me yesterday when you were challenging me that you have no idea which party I belong to.
Senator Khalwale, would you just withdraw what
Yes,
you said
yes.
If you are withdrawing and move on with your...
Madam Speaker, I want to calm him so that he doesn't feel that...
He's extremely calm, as I can see.
You are now calm. Bas, that's what I wanted. I don't want him to sleep thinking that the grandfather of his daughter is a problem to him. Madam Speaker.
Senator Khalwale, you are just squandering your own time. Please focus on what you were saying.
Madam Speaker.
Can you withdraw the allegation that Cherargei is paid to harass you? Let's
Madam Speaker, but he has not complained. If he had complained, then there would be reason. He's taken it in his stride. The debater he is. A grandchild of John Maria Sarney from Nandi.
Senator Cherargei, what's your point of order? I wish the two of you would realize how much time you're taking off a very important debate. Proceed with your point of order.
Madam Speaker, I raise understanding order 105 on accuracy of fact. Senator Kalwale has alleged that I get paid to attack him. That is far from the truth. Can he withdraw and apologize?
Senator Kalwale, would you...
Madam Speaker, I withdraw and apologize.
Thank you. Proceed with the debate.
In our other life,
don't qualify what you have said.
Thank you. In our other life, we shall pursue it with him. Madam Speaker, it concerns me that we have no comparative value for the cost of doing projects. Building houses has a cost. When you just think randomly, the express highway was built at 63 billion shillings. Thika Superhighway was built at, Madam Speaker, 27 billion shillings. It means, Madam Speaker, $1 billion is a big thing. And on a day like this, when we are talking about quantum, the systems that the government is using to manage our economy, including the latest introduction of electronic banking, specifically e-citizen. When we hear that e-citizen, the Auditor General, is saying in writing that 11 billion shillings is gone. Gone where? When we hear that one person, not two people, one person earns a convenience fee from transaction of e-citizen, he earns 50 million shillings per month, one person who we know because his name has been stated. The young man must truly be smiling all the way to the bank. Parliament functioning as it is, let us stop this theft through e-citizen. Let us stop the theft through inflation of projects. With this, Madam Speaker, if we achieve it, then the housing project is going to be a game changer. As I saw, Madam Speaker, I don't know whether it escaped you, a report in Tanzania during the ongoing presidential campaign. The president was being challenged that you are telling us that you are going to fix street lights, that Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, our cities will be lit. And yet in Kenya, the president is building houses. You can see how far we are. So if we push this housing and get it done very well, we'll be way, way ahead of all other East African community economies. Look, it is projected that in the next financial year, the economy of Ethiopia will be ahead of Kenya at 15.6. It will grow, and Kenya will grow by 15. Why would Ethiopia, a country which is struggling with democracy, a country that is struggling with stability, struggling with national cohesion, doesn't have a good constitution like ours, doesn't have a well thought out, devolved system like ours, should leapfrog us? Why? They go, they do a dam there, we sing in praise of them, and yet we can't fix our dams on River Tana. We wait like we are waiting now when the rain season comes in for water to disturb people in Tana River, families will be unsettled, property will be destroyed, life will be lost. And all we need to do is to dam the Tana River. You dam it, you make it more productive. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the committee for this nice report and hope that Parliament will help the executive to succeed. Thank you.
Senator Sifuna.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. From the onset, I want to be very clear that I stand to oppose these regulations in the report by the committee recommending that we support them. Senator Mofaya knows that I have a lot of respect for him, but I have reasons, Honorable Speaker, why I think that should be the position. I speak as a stakeholder here. I pay over 30,000 shillings every single month, an involuntary deduction that I opposed with all my strength, Honorable Speaker, but was overruled. And therefore, this fund already has my money. Number two, Nairobi City County is perhaps the scene of the largest such construction of the so-called affordable houses. And our people are actually the most affected, Honorable Speaker. The basis of my objection to the recommendation of the committee is twofold. Firstly, it's procedural matters, Honorable Speaker. There is a reason, Secretary, shall, outside of that time. I am not convinced by the explanation that has been given by the committee. It was his responsibility. It is dereliction of duty. This is one of the most prominent projects of this administration. There is no way you can tell me that the Ministry of Housing would miss that deadline. I am not convinced, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the committee also accepts that in violation of the law, the law requires that the Cabinet Secretary shall submit published regulations. In fact, the regulations that were sent to Parliament were draft regulations. Now, the committee led by Mofaya is telling me, a lawyer who knows the meaning of the word shall and its implications, to ignore the fact that the Cabinet Secretary sent to Parliament draft regulations. It is unacceptable, Honorable Speaker, from where I stand. Honorable Speaker, we are required to approve or reject these regulations within 15 sitting days. The committee there has noted in their own report that those days were to expire on 11th of September. You should have at least struggled or tried to explain to the House whether it was because of the amendment of the calendar that was moved by the majority leader during the impeachment. At the very minimum, please, Senator Gataya, explain to us, because according to my calendar, unless the committee has a different one, today is way past the 11th of September. And, Madam Speaker, that is significant for one reason. The law states that if we don't reject within that period, these things stand approved. So I'm standing here wondering, am I, once again, majority leader, engaging myself in an exercise in futility? And that would be an egregious violation of my constitutional responsibility to go through these regulations for the sake of the people who elected me. Honorable Speaker, one of the final things, procedural ones that I thought I would bring up, there was something else. I think I'll see it, yes. Honorable Speaker, when a law says that when you're passing or bringing legislation or regulations, you publish them in a newspaper of nationwide circulation, it means exactly that. A newspaper of nationwide circulation. Now, everybody knows what the word newspaper means. Everybody knows what wide circulation means. It cannot be stuck somewhere in there in a government supplement or releases from the ministries. Honorable Speaker, the ministry has told us that instead of putting this advertisement in a newspaper, such as the Daily Nation, which everybody knows in this country is a newspaper of wide circulation, or the Standard, or both. In fact, the practice I have seen is that when it comes to serious legislation, you put them in both of those newspapers. What they have done, Honorable Speaker, is to circulate this thing in a publication that I personally never read because I consider it illegal and unconstitutional, an affront to the freedom of media. They call it MyGov. Honorable Speaker, if you consider the history of that publication called MyGov, it was out of a desire to punish media houses that were not playing the tune that some of these friends of ours these days sing in public barazas and markets. It was to deny revenue, government revenue to the mainstream newspapers as a way of making them bend to the will of government. Honorable Speaker, that was the invention of this thing called MyGov. It is tucked in the Tuesday edition of the Star. The Tuesday edition of the Star. I can assure you, my mother did not see that publication. And she's a mother of a very well-learned senator. Down there in the village in Kitinda, she didn't see it. But I am sure she read the Tuesday edition of the Daily Nation that day. So the explanation that is given, Honorable Speaker, is that there was a directive of government that government advertisements be carried in this publication. The question I'm asking myself, Honorable Mwenda Gataya, can a directive of government, which is basically what these things, what do they call them? I see them issued from State House from time to time. It's executive fiat. Can it override a requirement of the law for you to publish these regulations or the law in newspapers of nationwide circulation? And my answer to that is no. Madam Speaker, I am done with the procedural problems that I have with this particular report and with these regulations. Let's go to the substance, the actual provisions. So, according to the report of the committee, these particular regulations are the ones that are supposed to operationalize the Affordable Housing Act. It is supposed to provide for a procedure and criteria for allocation. Now, if you read the regulations, the Act itself has a board. They have said that the procedure for allocation of these particular affordable houses is you must make an electronic application to the board. The criteria is set there. So some of the issues that were being raised by Senator Khalwale, if indeed we put in place in a law a board to be able to be the ones to determine who gets these units of housing, how can anyone else, it doesn't matter their position in the structure of government, be the one allocating houses? And I speak painfully because this is my money. And the initial argument, Honorable Speaker, was that those of us who make an income contributing to this fund so that the people on the lower echelons of society in Mukuru can be able to afford these houses. Are we still serving those people? Or these affordable houses paid for by my money, very painfully, Honorable Speaker, are available for donations because of someone sitting in the office of head of state? He can decide today that Faith Kipyegon deserves a 2-bedroom house. Faith Kipyegon, for all her glory, surely, you know, she cannot be described as a poor person. She doesn't live in Mukuru. She doesn't live in Mukuru. Why would we pass a law? Why couldn't we just say, this fund is now going to be run from State House, and he will decide and determine who gets these affordable houses at whim? Secondly, Honorable Speaker, they have provided for a requirement for a deposit of 5% of the unit price. I have a problem, and the people of Mukuru, the people of Mathare, the people of Kibra in Nairobi have told us, because in Nairobi, as a county government, we are also undertaking affordable housing schemes, and because of the intervention of this Senate, and especially the Senate Housing Committee, we have made sure that there is no requirement for a deposit when you get a unit of an affordable house under the Nairobi County government. Because we know our people, Senator Khalwale, they cannot afford 5% of, I don't know what is the cost of a 2-bedroom house in the new Mukuru. Honorable Speaker, they cannot afford, no wonder. Many of them, even after getting into those houses, are selling those houses, are renting them out, and going back to the slum. They are going back to the slum. Madam Speaker, that requirement of a deposit does not make sense to me, because we have already contributed amounts. We have already contributed amounts. I think I've been contributing for over a year now. Can my money be used as deposit for the people of Mukuru? I am never going to apply for those houses. They were not meant for people like me. I have a parliamentary scheme here. I have a house. Honorable Speaker, this one, on behalf of the people of Nairobi, I have to say no. Then they go and create something called deposit assistance, which basically is to tell you that they will give you a loan to get the deposit. They will give you a loan to get the deposit. Senator Gataya, if, for instance, people who have been contributing and actually wanted, a teacher in Buruburu wanted to apply for this house, they have already been paying. They have already been paying. Why are you asking them for a deposit? Then you go and give them a loan. And they have structured, Honorable Speaker, interest bands that depending on how much money you earn. I have a big problem there, because, Honorable Speaker, if you look at the report of the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, there are only 387,000 Kenyans as of 2023 who earn over 100,000 shillings. And this figure is critical, Honorable Speaker, for various reasons. You will see there that in these regulations, there are 3 categories of houses. Social housing, which is for people who earn less than 20,000 shillings per month. Then there's something they are calling affordable housing, for people who earn between 20 and 140,000 shillings per month. Then there's this thing called affordable middle income housing, for people who earn over 150,000 Kenya shillings. Out of a population of 55 million people, only 387 as of 2023 earn above 100,000 shillings. You are telling us you are reeling off 200 units per year. Who are you building these houses for? Who are these people you're building these houses for? If you did, of course, they have never even scratched the surface on that promise of 200,000 annually. But, Honorable Speaker, if they build those 200,000 houses in 1 year, and another financial year they build 200,000, so that we have a total of 400,000, the people who would be able to afford those houses would already be exhausted, because the number is at 387,000 people only who can afford these houses. We have problems. We have problems with this.
Senator Sifuna, can you be informed?
No, I am teaching. Honorable Speaker, I'm in the middle of imparting information. Please don't.
Okay, proceed.
What do you want to inform me? You will have your own opportunity to be able to do this. Honorable Speaker, please, I don't like to be interrupted. This is what they do. Now, Honorable Speaker, there is another provision that I have a problem with, and that if you apply to the board.
What's your point of order, Senator Mopai?
Madam Speaker, you know for a fact there is no point of order. It's one of those frivolous attempts to derail debate.
Let him raise the point of order.
Madam Speaker, I want Senator Sifuna to withdraw and apologize. Though the much I know about this house is a house of registrators. This is a house of debate. I have not captured any student in the front of this house, so nobody is being taught. So as much as I have a lot of respect for Senator Sifuna is debating just like any other registrants in the house. Also, I don't think whether there is any student in this house to be taught.
Senator Sifuna.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I'll proceed to make the point that I was making. My next point about the deposit, Honorable Speaker, the provisions of the regulations are that if you pay that deposit, for instance, and your application is rejected by the board, do you know the regulations say that they don't give you back your money? They take it into something that they are calling a voluntary savings account. I was not giving the deposit so that I save money. I wanted a house. So if you are unable to allocate this unit to me, give me back my money. I can go and do other things with it. Regulation number on interest. Honorable Speaker, they have set interest on that loan that I talk about between 9% and 3%. Now, let us come to the regulation on consent to sell. Consent to sell. That, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, if you buy this unit and you run into financial ruin, for instance, you are unable to keep up with the payments and you want to sell it, you have to ask for permission to sell the unit. You have to ask for permission from this same board. And, Honorable Speaker, the problem there is that if it is tied to another regulation on default, if you default for 2 consecutive months, the board takes back possession of that unit. That is what the regulations you want us to pass are saying. Honorable Speaker, as far as I know, as a student of law and somebody who understands the Constitution, you cannot interfere with property rights, my ability to own and dispose property, by frivolous regulations such as this. If I run into financial ruin, now, for instance, Honorable Speaker, a member of the family is diagnosed with a serious disease like cancer. We are all raising money. I have a unit sitting here, and we need money. You are telling me I need to go to somebody else to get consent to sell that house because of extraneous circumstances. And by the way, these regulations also provide that all decisions of this board, you have to, again, ask for what they call review from the same board. And that provision on review of the decisions of the board also goes ahead to specify the only grounds you can raise a point of review with the board. What sort of regime is that? What sort of regime is that? So therefore, Honorable Speaker, I want to submit that this particular provision on consent to sell a unit is unconstitutional. And then they require that you can only apply for that consent to sell after 5 years of completion of payment. They also regulate the price. The regulations regulate the price that at that point when they have told you now you can sell, they have fixed a price for you that you can only sell that unit at prevailing market rates. If I am able to convince Khalwale to pay 10 million on a unit that is the prevailing market rate is 5 million, you will tell me no. This violates the concept of willing buyer, willing seller. Perhaps Khalwale likes this unit so much and there's enough demand on the unit, they are willing to pay more. How can you tell me that I cannot get more money if I am able to persuade Khalwale, Senator Khalwale, to pay more? So therefore, Honorable Speaker, I personally have big problems with this affordable housing scheme. I thought it was very poorly thought out. It is actually punitive on the small population of people who actually have a pay slip in this country. I was in Funyula with the Honorable Oundo in Busia County. In the middle of Busia, not even at the town, in the town, somewhere deep there in the rural areas. Yes. Yeah, I saw they are building 12 floors. And Honorable Speaker, the good thing is that you come from the same region as I do. Where I come from, Honorable Speaker, if your chicken cannot get into that place, you also cannot get in there and sleep there. Because there is no chicken that lives on 12th floor. And this is we live with chicken, you know, for us. They are considered family. So I was looking at those units in Funyula. I was wondering, who are these people? Who are the people who are targeted to stay in these units? And maybe Senator from Busia, the Honorable K. Mutata, can shed light and tell us who are those units meant for. And when you speak to the people in that area, how they wish all that concrete was a hospital, how they wish all that concrete was a school, how they wish, Honorable Speaker, that concrete was something that they actually needed. Because the problem with this affordable housing scheme is that it does not prioritize our needs. The reason why somebody would be given a unit in Mukuru and go back to the slum is because the priority of that person is to eat. The priority of that person is education. The priority of that person is health care. But because this government knows why it prioritizes houses, they will tell you, Honorable Speaker, the people supplying material for that construction, the people supplying sand, the people supplying cement, they are more than happy to build those things. It doesn't matter whether people will ever own them or live with them, because there will be they will already have been paid and they will disappear. That is all that this affordable housing is about. It's about making money for cronies of people in power.
30 seconds.
The reasons I oppose strongly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Majority Leader.
Dispatch. Oh, okay, it's coming. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to also make my contribution to this report by our Committee on Delegated Legislation. Madam Speaker, I begin a troubled man because I've never had so much misinformation, and perhaps I don't know whether that is a place to commence, but I'll lose my trail of thoughts if I commence there. Therefore, I want to first stick to the substance of the report that is before us. Then maybe later, if I get an opportunity, I will direct my colleagues to where to get the correct information about many of the things which they said, which is information that is publicly available if you were to seek the right information. But you never know why people will choose to get the wrong one. Madam Speaker, I'm troubled because if you read this report, it is clearly brought out to us that these regulations are already approved by this House. So I don't know why delegated legislation will want us to debate them. Because you have told us in paragraph, let me just read the correct paragraph, Senator Mofire. Then perhaps you can guide me on what I need to do with my submissions. Paragraph 3 of your introduction, that the regulations were published on the 9th of July 2025, and thereafter they were received by the Senate for tabling on 11th July 2025, which time was within the 7-day sitting of a referral of an instrument to Parliament as stipulated within Section 11. Then, paragraph 4, you remind us that therefore these regulations were laid on the 16th.
Order, Senator Mutata, this is not your house. Why are you crossing the manner? Thank you, thank you.
I don't want to be disrupted by Senator Mutata. And so, regulation, paragraph 4 of that introduction, Mofire, your committee is telling us that after the 16th of July, in accordance with Section 59 of the Affordable Housing Act, number 2 of 2025, to be approved or rejected by Senate within 15 days of sitting. This is a law that we passed here. And we said that within 15 days of sitting, of receipt by the Senate, which days are set to lapse on the 11th of September 2025. Today, Madam Speaker, is the 25th, meaning that on the 11th, whether with a vote or without, we already passed these regulations. Therefore, what we are doing is just a conversation about what we think about housing. No wonder so many political statements are just being made. Because it has nothing to do with the report, whether we reject. In fact, I hope that there's no intention to take this to a vote. Because, Madam Speaker, eventually, you're taking it to a vote so that what happens? This report is already approved. And that is where we need to begin, because our committee chairpersons, the reason why you have a liaison committee is where there are emergencies such as this, where we have passed laws that have set timelines on ourselves. Like this law, we passed it here ourselves. And we said within 15 days of regulations, 15 sitting days, not just calendar days, sitting days, regulations such as this will stand approved. I expected a diligent committee would have led us to either consider those regulations or, at the very least, then bring a motion for extension of time. Though I'm not sure whether even that will stand, because at the end of the day, you can't pass a motion to amend statute which you've already put into law. It's very unfortunate, Madam Speaker, that we never got opportunity. Secondly, Madam Speaker, I'd wish to say that these regulations don't meet or serve the purpose for which they were intended to. I'd wish that when you have a matter as important as this, that our committees would lead us as a House to be alive to present issues, because housing is a very important project. Every political formation that I know, at least those that are worth their salt, had housing as a manifesto item, both the Azimio and the Kenya Kwanza. And not just in this election. From as early as 2002, if you read the NAC manifesto, housing was proposed there. Therefore, this is not just a simple exercise of passing regulations and saying, you go and do as you wish. It is in matters such as this that I expect of our committees when you're implementing programs that are of high importance to the people that we represent, that you lead us into a conversation. From what I know from history, Madam Speaker, many times back in the day when we considered the formulas, when we considered, I can't recall immediately off the top of my mind, other important things, where committees have actually led us into a sitting in this house with the committee of the whole and told us that, good people, ladies and gentlemen, here is a proposal that has come from the executive. What are your thoughts about it? It's not just something that you tuck yourself away as a committee, consider them, and come back to us. You're not bound by regulation, but it's the moral, it's the diligent thing to do. Because each of us, in one way or the other, is affected by this program. There are many questions that I have about this program, Madam Speaker. I want to know, Madam Speaker, for example, I would expect that by the time the Cabinet Secretary and the PS and the State Department and this board that is being set up come to us, that at least I'd have a report that since I passed this law 1 year ago and have been paying diligently, Madam Speaker, how many of those units have been built in each and every part of this country? Because I have to register a complaint as Senator for Kericho, for example, that all I can see are hardly 300-400 units that are not even ready. And I see occasionally here in Nairobi, thousands of houses. I don't know in which part of the country. Are we citizens? Are we children of a lesser God? Madam Speaker, I wanted to have that conversation here with the people that are running this program to know why certain counties will be at 70-80% completion of projects while others are still 20-30%. I just passed by, for example, where this project is being implemented in Kericho town. I think they are building only 400 houses in a county of a population of more than 1 million people, many of whom understand the importance of this project, Madam Speaker, and I'm glad because there are people who are saying in their parts of the country they don't need the houses. It will be important that you put it on record and donate to us who are in need. Our land is high-value agricultural land, and many people continue to build houses on that land. I would be more than happy if I centralize my people in one place so that I remain with land to secure their food and farming, Madam Speaker. Therefore, needs vary. There are those who consider this, that it is not useful to the people that they represent in this house. I wish, Madam Speaker, that we would get that opportunity so that we give a commitment, including in writing, and say, please, the request of my constituents is that we think we can uptake 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000. Then others can write and say, we don't need these things. Take it elsewhere. Madam Speaker, the implementation of this program has not been as transparent in terms of allocation of units that are being built across the country as we expected when we passed these regulations. Madam Speaker, and I say this with a heavy heart, because I know if you raise this conversation, many people will tell you, oh, you know, in your place, we don't have land to do this, and things such as those, Madam Speaker. But where is the engagement? Where is the diligence on the public officers that are running this program, that have gone to engage our county governments and said, provide for us alternative land? You may not have land where you're looking for, but at least I know every county government has land where they could point out and say, this is a good place where you set up this particular land. It's unfortunate, Madam Speaker, that as we speak here today, you drive down in certain counties, they are perhaps now doing their 20, 30,000 unit. Some of us are at 400, 500 units, Madam Speaker. That is the expectation that I had of this committee, that at least they will provide for me an opportunity to look back and say 1 year down the line, after we pass these regulations, this law, Madam Speaker, what has been the implementation process? I would have expected a blow-by-blow justification of each regulation to understand the empirical calculation, Madam Speaker, for example, on this very important proposal that is being made to provide affordable credit to those that want to purchase the housing units but don't have the 5% deposit, Madam Speaker. I'd wish to know what is the consideration in terms of the proposal that we are being given, 3% for those that earn less than 20,000, persons earning below 20,000, 6% for those that earn between 20,000 and 140, and 9% for those that earn above 140,000, Madam Speaker. Sorry, I note the change of Speaker. It's now Mr. Speaker, the Senator for Bomet, or is it Sigor? I know Sigor is part of Bomet. Mr. Speaker, I would have expected that this State Department takes us through blow by blow on the request that they have, Kenyans that have come to them and have said, we'd wish to purchase these housing units. However, the much I can raise is X amount. Therefore, allow me to borrow up to this amount, Mr. Speaker, and therefore this regulation is being provided. I would have wished to know, this issue of allocation has been canvassed, and I wish my whip was here, Senator Boni Alwale, because I've heard him say, and I think another senator also who's contributed has said the same, that there is some houses that were allocated to footballers. I don't know which footballers they are talking about. Why do people react to social media conversations? I expect of you as a legislator, not just a whip, at the very least as a legislator, to go into details sometimes and understand things beyond the conversations that happen in our newspapers. I listened to the president keenly when he was addressing the Harambee Stars players. And he told them, out of the windfall that you have gotten out of your wins, I am willing to top up something for you so that you pay the deposits. So I don't know where this conversation about donations that are being done. It's not possible to donate a house. I wish my whip was here so that I educate him a bit. I am afraid that sometimes he gets the wrong information from social media and runs to Parliament to speak about it. I listened to the teachers. I met my teachers from Kericho when they left State House that day. And they were so happy because they were castigating me as their representative, and they are saying, Senator, how comes you've never told us how we can purchase these units? At least today, we have been explained to how we purchase these units, because as people that lead in contribution, despite the very humble, meager income of teachers, and I say this with a lot of pride because I was raised by a teacher. My mother was a teacher. And therefore, I know what a dent to her payslip would have meant. It would have expected that at least she and her family will benefit. And that is a conversation that the teachers had at State House that day, because I listened to them say of the president, can you at least, now that we have accepted and you are part of the people that are funding this program, can we be prioritized so that even if I don't pay for those that are nearing retirement, my family can carry on and have a housing unit? There is justification for this, Mr. Speaker. If you follow the UN Habitat statistics, they point out quite clearly that by 2050, just a quarter of a century from now, 60% of the entire population of the earth will be living in urban areas. If we don't plan for the future, where do we want our people to live? There's good justification for this. Therefore, there is no conversation about whether this is important. I believe every knowledgeable person appreciates the place and the need for these housing units, Madam Speaker. It broke my heart listening to young people from Kibera the day we went to sign the bill, the affordable housing bill in State House. And they said, I think it was a community mobilizer, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you're there. He said that part of the reason why they want these housing units now is because young kids grow up, and by the age of 2 or 3, you cannot even teach them about sex because they see it in their homes. They live in one-roomed house and says, please give us some decency. There is good justification for a program such as this. The only problem that I take out of all these regulations is that the questions that are being raised by our colleagues on this floor, I have to say, many of them, Mr. Speaker, are extremely genuine, and there is good justification for them as representatives of the people to have sufficient answers. Yet that opportunity hasn't been provided. I don't know this constitutional order that we got ourselves into, Mr. Speaker, that is neither parliamentary Neither can you call it fully presidential, because you have people here that you are told they are committee chairpersons, therefore sometimes they speak and answer as if they are government. And there are those on the minority side which sometimes you confuse and say that they are in the opposition, because to the best of my knowledge, there is no opposition in government in parliament. It is majority and minority. Mr. Speaker, the distinction of what the Constitution appreciates is that there is an executive and legislature. The question that has never been answered to me up to date, what is the nexus between the executive and the legislature in terms of policy appreciation, policy critiquing? After we have passed a law such as this, and it has been operational for 1 year, where is the opportunity beyond the question and statements time that we sometimes get here with ministers? Where is the opportunity for me to critique and say, okay, we gave you a law, how have you implemented it? My constituents are saying this and that. I don't believe, Mr. Speaker, that it was the intention of the drafters of our constitution for us to exist as silos, that we can never interact, that we can never provide good, credible feedback to the executive, Mr. Speaker, on programs such as this. I want an opportunity to sit down with CS Alice Wahome, with PS Hinga, and give my thoughts about what my constituents are saying about this program. It's not just the absence. It includes things such as location, Madam Speaker. It is also important, I must record the appreciation, by the way, that there are diligent colleagues who follow these things, but unfortunately, it's not everybody that can do that. When it was first rumored that the approximate cost of a housing unit, I don't know what amount. I remember one of my colleagues here telling me that this is almost 10,000 shillings higher than what other private entities. I think it was Senator Chute, actually. Yeah, thank you for being reminded about that. And we went with him, we drove all the way to Mombasa Road, compared, and we shared that feedback with the PS and said, you must review your rates, because at least people such as Edoman, that gentleman that is building on, what is it called, Great Wall, has bought the land. For you, you have not bought any land. Most of the land that these housing units are being built on is public land. Therefore, it should be cheaper. So I want an opportunity to ask the executive, what is the approximate cost of what it takes you to buy this unit? To build this unit. I also want to know, what are the benefits of the economies of scale? If you're buying cement in thousands, because you've been given an opportunity to supply into a public program, therefore there are benefits to the economies of scale. That was my expectation. We were told that when this program comes, many young people will get an opportunity to supply door frames, to set up carpentry sites. I don't see those things happening in my county, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I want to have that conversation with this gentleman, beyond just regulations. I said, these ones have just given us an opportunity to talk. Otherwise, they are useless. This one is already passed. But there are important things about that program that we want to know, Mr. Speaker. I want to see the young people that are benefiting, those that are supplying door hinges or have been trained in our TVET institutions. Because I listened and I said these things on the campaign trail when we were pitching for housing during the 2022 campaign season. And we said, we will build houses, then you young people will be suppliers of the door frames, and another one will supply the locks. Those things have to be reality for them to make sense. Otherwise, how will I face my constituents? Mr. Speaker, I have very serious questions about this program, because I understand that it is important, it is transformational, it is necessary. Therefore, I cannot give excuse to those that are implementing it after I have gone through such a difficult time. First of all, paying for it. Secondly, passing the law on the floor of this house. Therefore, I want to ask, Mr. Speaker, because Mofire has no opportunity anymore. His report has been bypassed by time. But we have a committee on housing and transport in this house. That because we don't have the opportunity to further interact with these people, with these regulations, Mr. Speaker, can we at least as a house be provided with an opportunity to question the executive on the implementation, so that the people that have serious questions and doubt about, including the size, their cultural sensitivities, Senator Sifuna has said that the people he represents where he comes from, they want to live in the house with the chicken. Therefore, can you make that part of the provision? Don't build them houses so small, Mr. Speaker, that they will not fit together with their chicken. I don't know whether Catherine Buba also has a specific request. She'll tell you that you need to make the windows slightly larger so that when she cooks omena, it does not kill her like tear gas. So they are very, very important. I don't want to lose my train of thought, Mr. Speaker. But the point that I'm making is that I don't see Senator Ed in the House. I think maybe he traveled or something. But they are members of Transport and Housing. You will have failed this House. You will have failed this House if you do not provide us with an opportunity to sit down with CS Alice Wahome, PS Hinga. Yes, that's why I wanted her to come here, because as a Senate, a House that represents the interests of counties, we want to have a conversation with them on the implementation of this program. What is the nexus, the connection even with county government? There are places where we are told county governors are taking time to release. We must take into place their consideration. Some of them are saying, I have better plans to do other than affordable housing in the place where you want to place it. Therefore, what is a place of interaction between a county government and the department, the board that we have set in place to run? Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I want to request our colleagues, I don't know if there is any member of the Transport and Housing Committee, that let us not derelict our responsibility. We are representatives of the people, whether you're on the majority or on the minority side, whether you supported or you did not support this law. This is the reality of a country. Come, let us sit down with these people and ask them the difficult questions that are being raised, so that as they leave this House, they know the people of Kenya are asking certain questions. Just like we have issues to do with other nationally rallied programs, like, you know, I challenged our colleagues the time that there was a report, the audit report on the implementation of SHA came out. And the, what was it called? The contractual obligations that had been put into that contract. I challenged Senator Mandago and I said, I have seen a report from the Auditor General on how, I don't know, the cost of this program. People keep quoting all manner of figures. And you can't blame us. We are a country that is sensational by nature. We'll have hearings, huge figures. 100 billion, I don't know what amount. Can you lead us into a better conversation so that at least, at the very least, representatives of the people like senators, Mr. Speaker, don't quote information from newspaper articles. But the reason we end up doing that is because we never get the opportunity to meet with the implementers of policy and ask them some of these questions. Therefore, Senator Mofaya have done their bit. At least they brought an opportunity for us to know that there were regulations that we passed without knowing. That was important. But now that that opportunity is lost, can you give us the chance?
Leader, is it that regulations were passed without knowing, or by operation of law they became law because of timelines? It could not then have been that you passed without knowing.
I don't know which is which, Mr. Speaker. All I know is that the regulations are operational and they have been passed by both houses. At least in the National Assembly, I saw the debate going on, and I heard members speak about it. I don't know what you, Mofaya, were doing until today on the 25th, we are debating regulations which, by operation of the law, our own law that we passed as a Senate, stand approved. I don't mind being informed.
Proceed, Senator Mofaya, to inform the Leader of Majority. Okay. Use the dispatch desk.
I think there is some defect. I think Honorable Speaker, Majority Leader is very right. You know, this is just a matter of procedure. It's a matter of format. We aim to break this an issue that is attracting a national debate, and it's a matter that would have skipped the debate from the House, and it's important that we had to bring it here. Though we had looked at the timelines and those things have already been passed, and without maybe it's important for us as a matter of a formality to bring those regulations here so that you can even capture the mind of Senator Sifuna, who has brought very pertinent issues. So I think it's very deliberate, Honorable Speaker, that those regulations have been brought here. We have a lot of penetrations from quite a number of debaters.
Take your seat.
What is
your
the
point of order, Senator Sifuna?
Speaker, it is wholly offensive. Wholly offensive. We have a committee of this House that schedules business. I used to sit in that committee for 2 sessions, for 2 years. I am sure the majority leader still sits there. The majority whip still sits there. All these leaders on both sides of the House still sit in that committee. Honorable Speaker, how fair is it? You are telling us that you've scheduled business. We are in the middle of debate. There is a procedure that has to be followed. At the end of debate, you have to put a question. I need to vote. I need to vote. You've sat us here at 6 o'clock, ordinarily on a Thursday, Honorable Speaker. You know, Waziri wa Sherehe. I shouldn't be here. At 6, I stayed here because this is an important matter.
Sifuna,
Therefore, the clarification we are seeking, Honorable Speaker, is this debate a debate in futility? Is this motion properly before this House? Now that we're in the middle of debate, you need to make a decision if indeed the regulations are passed by operation of law. And the good thing is that you are a lawyer. Stop the debate. Stop the
Take your
debate.
seat,
Because
Sifuna. Yes, you've raised your concern.
but now that I have already spoken to it, I will insist on voting. Because
Take your seat.
it does-
Take your seat. Take your seat, Senator Sifuna. The opportunity I granted to Senator Mofaya was to inform the leader of majority as to why he brought the motion for debate today that deals with regulations which by operation of law have been operationalized or have become regulations. And so I believe that information was for the benefit of the leader of majority, but your concerns are taken by the chair. And appropriate communication will be made about it. Senator Majority Leader. Your mic is not working, Leader of Majority. Just use the display.
And the commissioner at least is in the country today, Mr. Speaker. One of the 3 commissioners is in the House. At least can you make sure the mics are working? During my time as a commissioner, Mr. Speaker, I ensured the mics used to work. I don't know what happened to these ones that we got into office recently. Mr. Speaker, I was saying, Senator Sifuna...
I can confirm to you, Leader of Majority, that the Commissioner has just confirmed to me that yesterday the House Business Committee indeed confirmed that this will be worked on in the next recess session.
Yeah.
And therefore...
But what do we use between now and then? Because he knows the mistakes he has done.
Proceed,
Mr. Speaker,
Leader
I
of
was
Majority.
saying, Senator Sifuna's concerns are not illegitimate, Mr. Speaker. Because we must ask ourselves, why did you subject us to a debate of something that is already, that stands approved actually, Mr. Speaker? In fact, that's a question that the Secretariat that progressed this actually needs to answer. Because why? I believe in the other house. If it was in the National Assembly, things such as this never happen. We must move away from being stoic also as an institution and, do things better. This was completely unnecessary. But the chair has told us that the reason he brought the report was to catch our attention on this conversation. Okay, you have succeeded in doing that. I hope Senator Eddy and the team at Transport and the Housing Committee will at least help us answer the things and the concerns that colleagues have on the implementation of the housing project. Because as an avid campaigner of housing program, Mr. Speaker, and somebody who knows how that program can change lives of people that, one, in urban areas live in subhuman conditions, and for those of us that come from densely populated, rich agricultural zones, at least this program can provide us an opportunity to live as expected, where we live in concentrated places and leave part of our land to be used optimally for agricultural farming. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, the small land in my village in Kericho that my grandfather left to us, by the time it gets to my children's children, it will not be useful anymore. At least if this program is properly implemented in my county, I can tell them, let's go and live in town. We leave the farm. We fill it up with the tea bushes and it will take care of us. And the same can be said of so many other things. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to that opportunity. I will be making that request even at SPC, that opportunity be provided for us so that we can ask the difficult questions in public interest. We can say the things we want to say in rallies, because that's politics anyway. There's no problem. But at least as an elected representative of a people, whether you're from majority or minority, there are things that you can share with the executive on programs that are important, such as this, that will better it. And that opportunity has to be presented. After that, whatever else we say in federal is just for commercial or political value. But at least here in Parliament, Mr. Speaker, we say things that can influence policy. I thank you.
Thank you, Leader of Majority. I have got a communication to make before I allow the next member to contribute to the motion. Honorable members, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students from Busia universities and College Students Association. The delegation consists of 12 students. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. And since the person who is to contribute next is Senator Okoiti Omtata, who comes from Busia, I will, before you contribute to the motion, give you under 1 minute to welcome the delegation, then contribute to the motion. Senator Omtata, you use the dispatch.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for the opportunity, and I welcome the delegation from Busia Students Association. I was not aware of their presence, I was not informed, but I'm happy that they're here. I also want to inform them that we shall be having Senate Mashinani, so they should feel welcome to come back to Busia from the 6th of next month and air their views about what the Senate can help do for them. Otherwise, I wish them success in their studies, and I hope that they'll have a fruitful experience in their tour here. And next time I request that they send me an alert if they're coming to visit the Senate, so that I can know they're coming to visit the Senate. I don't like being ambushed. But you are most welcome, and I wish you a very fruitful tour. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'll begin where my brother, Senator Sifuna, left off when he referred to chicken. It's not a light issue that he said. The word, one time a lawyer sage told me that the word ingoho has the word ingo inside that name. And I want majority speaker to understand. Ingoho has the first part is ingo, ho. When you see that bird, there's a home around there.
It is back, Senator Omtata. Proceed.
Yeah, that bird is a sign that the area is settled. So it was not an idle statement that Senator Sifuna made. It's a very, very important cultural. If there must be a chicken, otherwise it's not a home. That will just be a house, not a home. Now, I also would like to say that what the majority leader mentioned, that these houses are being built on public land. A very, very important condemnation of what is going on. We don't convert public land by building houses on it and selling them to private owners. If you want to private public land, there's a procedure for doing that. This affordable housing has no respect for any law. It's being done like we are in a vacuum. There are no laws in this country. The question of public land has been set aside for specific purposes. Right now we are having a crisis in Busia, whereby the Busia Agricultural Training Center has been invaded by the public. It is a affordable housing thing, and they're just building, even they're building over the ponds that had been put there by under climate change, the fish ponds, demonstration centers. So ATC was set aside to be a university in the long run. We had Sangalo in Bungoma. We had got what was called Weko, which is now Masinda Mudro University in Kakamega. And there was the ATC in Busia, which were designed to be universities in the long run. And if you look at each of them, they were allocated a lot of land. The ATC sits on 95 acres in Busia town. They are dumping these houses there with no care that that's public land alienated for a particular purpose, and they don't care. And then they want to sell these houses to private individuals, which means they are privatizing public land, they are destroying the plan of Busia, they have got no care about the future of this country. That's what the problem is. So conversion of public land to private land. Public land is defined in the Constitution, private land is defined in the Constitution, community land is defined in the Constitution. No individual can just by the whims of their minds say they are going to convert that land by selling those houses to individuals. When power changes, we shall recover those houses and surrender them to the public. Neither President William Ruto, the minister, or anybody has the capacity to sell private land to a private individual. So whoever dares buy those houses, you are throwing away your good money. We'll recover those houses and put the land back to the public. Or you carry your house away from that land. There'll be two options. You'll have to find a way of carrying that house. And remember, it's a story house. How will you carry your floor or your apartment? I warn Kenyans, don't touch those houses. Because when I take over, I'm going to recover them. In 2027, I'm going to recover them and return the land back to the public. And when the government takes them over, we are going to quantify each pay slip. My brother has been mourning about his 30,000 shillings per month. We shall quantify that money and recover it from a consolidated fund and refund you and make those houses public property. So just support me for the presidency. Next.
Senator Koiti, I want to warn you that
I'm
you will not
guided.
use the platform to campaign
I'm guided.
for your presidential ambitions.
I'm guided. The other thing, the other disregard for the law. Let us forget about public land. These houses, and not forget about public land, other than being built on public land, they are being built using money that has been collected from Kenyans as a levy, which makes that money public money. So in all essence, that is public property. We have got Article 227 of the Constitution, which requires that the disposal of public property must be done in a competitive manner, in an effective manner. The Public Procurement Act also does that. Where does it come that now we are using public money to make grants? When did the government become a grant maker? We already have an emergency fund that is in the treasury. Why are we becoming grant makers? And if you look at the Kenyan Constitution, it's a clearly civic republican charter with the rights to property and pursuit of the common good and use of public office for service. Protection of private property. You cannot take Senator Sifuna's 30,000 shillings per month and use it to build a house for somebody else. That's what the Constitution condemns in Article 40 as arbitrary deprivation of Senator Sifuna's interest in his money. There was a question of timelines. And this is the danger of making unconstitutional law. Article 94, clauses 5 and 6 of the Constitution say that only Parliament has the power to make law. And Parliament can delegate that power. Now, it cannot be said that in delegating the power, if Parliament fails to validate a statutory instrument within 15 days, the statutory instrument becomes law automatically. The ideal is that the statutory instrument should lapse if Parliament has not approved. There's a requirement that Parliament must protect the public, not by avoiding, not by omission, but by commission. Parliament must look at statutory instruments. This idea that if you don't look at them, they lapse, they become law automatically, is not constitutional. It violates Article 95, clauses 5 and 6. So, that law that was passed was wrong. As far as I'm concerned, by the act of the Constitution, these regulations lapsed. They did not become law. Secondly, we cannot go to the issue of look at the Affordable Housing Act as the primary act on making of statutory instruments. The Primary Act is the Statutory Instruments Act. And Section 15.2 gives 28 days, not 15 days. So the Statutory Instruments Act should trump that timeline that was smuggled into the Affordable Housing Act so that purportedly these things could become law. Now that my brother Wamatinga would like also to speak and I see time is running, let me be charitable and stop my submissions there so that my brother can also contribute. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. No, I don't say he's the next. He would also like to speak. So if I move away earlier, the next one moves away earlier, it will create room for him to speak. But I think I've massacred the thing with my skeletal submissions. And finally, I oppose the submissions. And I need the report, and I oppose the regulations, and I wait to vote them out. And I agree with Senator Sifuna that since we have been burdened with having to contribute, we must vote on them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Very well. For the benefit of Senator Mutata, it is the chair who actually permits members to speak. Senator, take your seat. Take your seat, Senator Mutata. Senator Wamatinga Wahome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Indeed, I came to your flash dashboard and I checked, and I went to talk to my colleague to allow me to say something. Mr. Speaker, a lot of technicalities have been spoken about this affordable housing. As I stand up, Mr. Speaker, I want to beg my colleagues to look at the history of this country way back in 1963, and I want to draw a parallel of where Kenya was, where Singapore was, and Malaysia. Mr. Speaker, in 1963, Malaysia was one big slum. They introduced the Housing Act around the same time that we did in the pre-colonial era, 1953, and went ahead in 1963 to ratify the same. South Korea and Singapore were far much in the same position where Kenya was. Their GDP, Mr. Speaker, were comparable. However, Mr. Speaker, due to the implementation of some of the laws that Kenya ignored, among them being the affordable housing, Malaysia was able to transform what used to be a slum into one of the most modern cities in the world today. Mr. Speaker, the same can be said of South Korea. The same can be said of Singapore. Where we got it wrong, Mr. Speaker, way back in 1953, in Article 1710, we had envisaged a situation where we will introduce housing models that will allow people to live in kind of one area and farm in the other areas. Mr. Speaker, we missed the point when we allowed the subdivision of land. We missed the point when we allowed urbanization uncontrolled, and we missed the point when we did not provide for housing for the low-income population in Kenya. And this is why, Mr. Speaker, today we have over 7 million Kenyans living in informal settlements. Mr. Speaker, most of the contributors of my colleagues who contributed to this motion may not have the advantage that I have as a contractor, because I've worked in very many informal settlements. Mr. Speaker, it is very appalling and very disheartening to see that our fellow Kenyans are living in subhuman conditions in informal settlements, and going by their level of income, they will never, using their own dynamic, get out of them. It is the high time, Mr. Speaker, and we must call it the way it is. If we do not address the issue of housing, especially in urban settlement, then we'll get more and more Kenyans living in the informal settlements. Mr. Speaker, we must, as leaders of this country, call the issues as they are. We know that Kenya is a signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals, and one of the requirements is that every Kenyan must have access to decent housing with sanitation, and most importantly, Mr. Speaker, decent in the sense that they'll not be living in riparian area. This can only be achieved, Mr. Speaker, if we have a deliberate attempt by the government, concerted effort by we the taxpayers to contribute into the kitty, because the only business that the government does is to coordinate that, Kitty, that in terms of levy, to ensure that our people can get housing. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it is imperative that we as leaders say, yes, we have a problem that has persisted for the last 62 years, and I would want to commend the Kenya Kwanza government, because we know in every successful government, it has committed herself to ensuring that there is a provision of affordable housing. None of them had, and none of them wanted to take this unpopular decision of introducing this housing levy. It is unpopular, Mr. Speaker, but the right decision. And time has come, Mr. Speaker, when we as leaders must not shy away from making decisions just because they are unpopular to please our voters. It cannot be the business of politicians to fight for positions, get elected, but only start fighting to be re-elected again. I want to commend the president, and that has been said even in the meeting going on in New York. He has taken it upon himself to ensure that he delivers Kenya's mandate to become one of the developed countries, but that cannot happen if over 7 million Kenyans are living in informal settlement. Mr. Speaker, sir, affordable housing, look at it from whichever way you want to look at it. But it cannot be people living in Mathare, in Mukuru kwa Ruben, people living in Nyeri Majengo. They cannot afford to buy the prime property there to build their own houses. It must therefore be a common and a collective responsibility of all of us to ensure that we move those people from those slum shackles into houses. Mr. Speaker, I want to believe that this is the high time that we face it and say it the way it is. We have missed the opportunity. This government, more so because it's a broad-based government, has taken a paradigm shift in the way things are done, and therefore we can see that people will start getting housing. To the issue that has been addressed by some of our colleagues, Mr. Speaker, the law of supply and demand is very simple. If we construct many houses for the upper class and there's nobody to take them, then the lower class will have an opportunity to access better houses at a lower rate. That is simply the law of supply and demand. But also having said that, Mr. Speaker, it is the high time that we realize that the population in Kenya is growing, the land mass of Kenya is not expanding, and therefore we must divorce ourselves from the traditional way of looking at land and see it not as a renewable resource, but as a diminishing resource, and therefore we reduce on horizontal and go the vertical. Mr. Speaker, I would want to urge my colleagues, as much as this report has come a bit too late, it gives us a golden opportunity to explore the possibility of how we'll operationalize, but most importantly, on how we'll ensure that many Kenyans access the affordable housing, because the future generations are looking upon us to ensure that we leave them in a better place than we found ourselves in. Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, I want to commend the chair for giving us an opportunity to discuss on this report, and most importantly, reflect on the things that we as a country can benefit if we ensure that the operationalization of the regulations, the optimization, and also most importantly maybe the ratification of some of these regulations to ensure that every Kenyan will have an opportunity to own a home, every Kenyan will have a chance of having somewhere he or she can call home. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, and has been said, by 2050, most of the Kenyans will be living in urban center. Then that begs the question, what must we do today to avert the danger that will come of many people joining the informal settlements, and that can only be answered through the housing, the affordable housing program. Mr. Speaker, as I wind up, I want to thank His Excellency the President, because we know four of his predecessors were not able to make this hard decision, but he has taken the bull by its own. I'm a proud Kenyan for contributing to the housing levy, because I want also to be accounted among those who played an active role in ensuring that Kenyans get affordable housing, decent, and that we start fighting development of slums and informal settlements moving forward. Mr. Speaker, sir, I support, and I take this opportunity to say this is the way that we need to go, Mr. Speaker, and indeed, every senator sitting here, we must take the opportunity to ensure that we sell this to our people, and to ensure that when we go back home, we tell people that, yes, these affordable housing are not for the rich people, but those who cannot afford. What we need to look at is the model of how do we go about financing them.
the model of how do we go about making sure that they are evenly distributed among all the communities, in all the towns in Kenya, but most importantly, even among the Gen Zs and the young generation of this country who cannot be able to afford to pay the deposits. Looking at the financing model, Mr. Speaker, if we get that one right, then this will be a golden opportunity to change the course of this country, and this will be a golden opportunity to ensure that each and every Kenyan has a place to call home. Mr. Speaker, my county is benefiting from this. Various institutions, including institutions of higher learning, are getting hostels, a very good thing. We were just there, I think 3 days ago in Kieni East. And I want to encourage my leadership in Nyeri County, we lobby for more and more of this affordable housing because Nyeri is one of those counties that has a lot of colonial villages where people live in very, very small properties. Mr. Speaker, with affordable housing, then we'll be able to ensure that everybody has a place and the land that will be saved can be used for agricultural production. I like what my majority leader said. In places where land is of high value, putting high-rise buildings will ensure that we save our land for agricultural production and, most importantly, maybe even for industrial development. This is how many countries in Europe have afforded to move their population from slums into places where you can have controlled development. Mr. Speaker, sir, for those of us who've traveled a lot, we know when you put people in one settlement, then you're able to provide them with sewage system. You're able to provide them with schools. You're able to provide them with other social amenities that when people are widely distributed, they cannot be able to. And this is a thing that we must look into moving forward as a country if we want to indeed move Kenya from where we are today to the next generation and to make sure that we are aligned to the SDGs of 2030. By 2050, Mr. Speaker, some of us might not even be around to see, but I want to say today, the things that we are doing, the decisions that we are making today will affect the future generations in another 30 years to come, and therefore, it is imperative, away from simple politics, it is imperative we look at the development that we'll bring and how it is going to affect our next generation, and most importantly, how we will see that it will change our social status from a developing to a developed country, and that cannot happen if we have over 7 million Kenyans upwards living in informal settlement. Mr. Speaker, this is something that we must look into. We have a political obligation, we have a moral responsibility, and most importantly, we have a president who's willing to see us walk this journey. Let us support him so that we can deliver this country from the underdevelopment that it has suffered because the leadership was not prepared to make the right decision. Now we have a president prepared to make the right decision. We, as political class, need to support him so that we can change Kenya, and the change begins here, and the change begins today. Mr. Speaker, I want to support because it's the right thing to do.
Thank you, Senator Wamachinga. Now, Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to speak to these regulations. Mr. Speaker, I begin with a dilemma that we must resolve as a House. Mr. Speaker, the committee in its report has clearly indicated that the executive did not comply with the law. It actually did not submit these regulations within the statutory timelines that were required to be submitted. So I ask myself, what is the consequence of this action? What is the consequence of regulations being submitted and procedurally to the House, not in compliance with the law? And once we receive those procedures, those regulations, do we have, as a House, the latitude or the permission to actually receive and process those laws? those regulations. Mr. Speaker, this is a question that we must answer as a House. Once the regulations came, Mr. Speaker, there is another timeline. A timeline within which the committee was supposed to process this law. Mr. Speaker, again, that was breached. Mr. Speaker, I believe even as we move forward, and I want to make it clear that affordable housing and social housing is one of the things we must embrace as a country. And it's one of the most important things that is happening right now because it has been operationalized in Kenya. It is benefiting some, and there are issues from the little conversation that we've had from our colleagues. There are issues which we need to converse, which we need to debate as leaders to guide the executive to ensure, yes, this is a good program, but we think this aspect of it is not good. This aspect of it needs to be strengthened. This social housing issue needs to be strengthened, and so on.
Senator Catherine Muma, fortunately it's 6:30 p.m., but when the House resumes, you will have a balance of 17 minutes to continue your contribution to the report. Now, Honorable Senators, it's now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until Tuesday, 30th of September, 2025 at 2:30 p.m.